All right, ready to take the throne room of, well, knowledge? We're diving deep into the Emperor Tarot card today.
Should be interesting.
You bet. You've sent us some fascinating sources on this imposing figure, and we've got a lot to unpack.
Yeah, it's really quite amazing how much you can get from just this one card. I mean, not just about tarot itself, but about how we all tend to think about authority, structure, even ourselves, really.
Totally. And we love to mix things up here, so we're looking at a few sources you sent. We've got some bullet points from a tarot guide, the Wikipedia article on the Emperor, even some stuff from Labyrinthos, so we're not, limiting ourselves.
Absolutely not, no. The more perspectives, the better, I always say.
Exactly. So, for our listeners who are maybe new to tarot or just want a refresher, let's start with the basics, shall we? Who is this imposing figure staring back at us from the card?
Right, so in the classic Rider-Waite deck, which lots of people start with, the Emperor is, well, he's hard to miss. He's this, mature, got that beard, sitting on this ornate throne. Often it's decorated with ram heads, classic power symbol.
I have the rams. I'd almost forgotten about those.
Right, and he usually has, let me see, an Ankh scepter in one hand representing life, and then that orb in the other, symbolizing dominion over everything, basically.
Don't forget about that mountain he's perched on. Not exactly rolling green hills, is it?
No, not at all. More like, this is my domain, that unshakable kind of vibe. And what I find so interesting is how consistent that imagery has stayed. I mean, across centuries, different tarot decks, you name it.
Even when the decks were getting censored, like back in the day, right?
Exactly, often for religious reasons or whatever. But the core of the Emperor, that visual, it always seems to persist.
It's almost like, I don't know, it speaks to something deeper about how we view leadership, order. But okay, enough art history for now. What does it actually mean when this guy shows up in a reading?
Right, so when the Emperor's upright, not reversed, that is, he often signifies authority, structure, just that take charge kind of energy, leadership roles, establishing order, making those tough decisions, all that good stuff.
So not exactly the touchy-feely type, huh?
Well, no, not really. Both Labyrinthos and Biddy Tarot, which we have here, they highlight that he's about the logical approach. Setting boundaries, creating systems, enforcing the rules, because someone's got to do it, right? Not always fun, but definitely necessary sometimes.
True. Though I do love a good balance, gotta say.
Of course. But sometimes you need that get stuff done energy, right? That's definitely the Emperor.
Makes you wonder how this archetype plays out in, our own lives.
Yeah.
That boss we've all had, or maybe even a mentor who, maybe not the warmest and fuzziest person, but man, they got results.
Yeah.
Emperor energy right there.
Exactly. Or even in your own life, think about how you are with organization. Thrive on schedules, love a good to-do list. Might be the Emperor's influence at work.
Okay, so we've got the upright Emperor structure, decisive, maybe a little intimidating, we'll give him that. But what happens when he, flips the script? When he shows up reversed? Things are about to get interesting.
No, don't go thinking reversed Emperor equals, full-on tyranny or anything.
Oh, good. Because I was a little worried there for a second.
It's not like that. More like how do I put it? A shift in energy, maybe. It's a call to look at where those Emperor-like qualities, the structure and all, where they might be out of balance.
Okay, so not doom and gloom, but definitely a yellow light. Proceed with caution.
Yeah, something like that. Both are Pasted Text Source and Biddy Tarot. They both warn about what can happen when that Emperor energy goes too far, When he's reversed, it can mean that overbearing control, inflexibility, even abuse of power, stuff like that. Ever had a boss or maybe even a teacher who was just so obsessed with the rules that they lost sight of everything else?
Yikes. Talk about no fun allowed.
Right. Not exactly the benevolent ruler, are they? But the thing is, this reverse energy, it can also be internal, Labyrinthos mentions that, how sometimes it's our own issues with authority that can be coming up.
Oh, interesting. So it's not always other people.
Right, exactly. It could be unresolved stuff with a father figure, maybe even fear of stepping into your own power, or even just being way too controlling in your own life, even if you don't mean to be.
It's like suddenly the Emperor card is a mirror, isn't it? Makes you think.
For sure. So then the question is, are we embodying the best of that Emperor energy or the not so great parts?
Right. It's about being honest with ourselves, I guess. Yeah. Are we rebelling against Ainway kind of structure just to rebel? Or are we clinging to control so tightly that no one can breathe?
Exactly. It's all about finding that sweet spot, And speaking of sweet spots,
Mhm.
what happens when the emperor enters the land of love? Or even career, for that matter.
Ooh, good one. Because we all want to know about that, right?
Right. So with love, if the emperor's upright, it often means a more, how should I say, traditional approach to relationships. Stability, dependability, that strong sense of commitment, that's all emperor territory.
Not necessarily a lot of fireworks, though.
Well, maybe not the most passionate whirlwind romance. No, even Labyrinthos mentions there might be a lack of outward romance, at least. But the thing about the emperor is he's all about that slow burn. You know, that strong, stable foundation that lasts.
Okay, so maybe not the most exciting first date, but someone you'd want around for the long haul.
Exactly. Now, if he's reversed in a love reading, that could be power struggles. You know, maybe someone needing to break free from a dynamic that's just too stifling. Or even encountering someone who IS, that controlling, domineering type we were talking about.
Communication is key, people. Take notes.
Always. Now, career, on the other hand, that's where I feel like the emperor could really shine.
Right. This feels like his home turf.
Absolutely. When he's upright in a career reading, it often means success through structure, discipline, you know, those leadership skills, promotions, mentoring, really calling the shots, all of that.
Okay. But knowing what we know now, reversed emperor in a career reading probably isn't great, is it?
Could be some challenges, yeah. Might be that frustrating bureaucracy, a work environment that's just too rigid kills creativity, or even butting heads with a boss who's just too controlling.
It's almost like this archetype, this emperor, it's like he's constantly challenging us, isn't he, to find that balance, not just in ourselves, but in how we deal with the whole world.
Exactly. It's about looking at those patterns, right?
Totally. And you know what else is interesting? This whole emperor idea, it's bigger than just like us and our little lives, you know. We see this archetype everywhere. Movies, books, even
Video games, don't forget those.
yes. Like there's this character in JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, right? And his stand, that power he has, it's actually called Emperor.
That's right, Hall Horse. His stand, Emperor, it uses guns, which really fits with that whole precision control aspect, right?
Yeah.
And he's super strategic, always thinking several steps ahead, very Emperor-like.
See? I told you it was everywhere.
Yeah.
Okay, one more thing before we move on, because you know me, got to get those visuals in.
Yeah.
You mentioned alternative tarot decks earlier. How do they see the Emperor?
Oh, that's where things get really interesting. How other tarot decks see the Emperor. It's like they each take that core archetype, that energy, but give it their own unique spin.
Right, and sometimes it's a pretty dramatic shift, isn't it? Like,
Yeah.
it makes you question your whole understanding of the card.
Totally. Like you think you know the Emperor all about that structure and control, and then a deck comes along and is like, nope, think again.
Exactly. Which reminds me, there was another example from the Wikipedia article you sent, the World Spirit Tarot, I think it was called. Instead of the Emperor, they've got this card called the Kurhotep. Rings a bell.
Oh yeah, Kurhotep. Now that's a good one. For anyone who hasn't come across him, he's an Egyptian deity associated with rebirth, renewal, that whole cycle of life, death, you know. And here's the thing, sometimes he's depicted wearing a crown, but with, get this, ram horns on it.
No way. So like that visual connection to the Emperor is there, even though they seem like totally different figures on the surface.
Right, it's subtle, but it's there. And I think it speaks to the idea that power itself, it's not static. It's part of this constant cycle, just like Kurhotep is linked to rebirth, right? It's like a reminder that those endings, they often lead to new beginnings.
Man, that's deep. So instead of clinging to control, maybe it's more about, I don't know, understanding the natural flow of things. Rolling with the punches, as they say.
Yeah, something like that. Working with those cycles, not trying to fight against them, which, I mean, easier said than done, right?
Tell me about it. But hey, yeah, at least these tarot cards are giving us something to think about, right?
It's like, even with a card like the Emperor, which seems pretty straightforward at first glance, there's always more to discover, always a new layer to uncover.
100%. Which I think is a good note to end on, actually.
Right.
Yeah, I think so too. So, to everyone listening, thanks for coming along on this deep dive with us. We hope you found it, I don't know, insightful, maybe even a little inspiring.
Hopefully it's given you some new ways to think about the Emperor, and hey, maybe even some new ways to think about your own life too.
Exactly. And hey, we'd love to hear your thoughts, what resonated with you, any big aha moments. Don't be shy, reach out, let us know.
Yeah.
Until next time, happy exploring.